Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Oranges Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Red Guy and Rhoda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing and a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jenkins! Holy Buckeye! Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we are talking college football and only college football. Tim and I had an exciting weekend. Tim, how you feeling today, bud?
I'm still recovering from the weekend, and it was a rough,
Dude, we did a lot.
amazing long weekend. Yeah, it was busy.
Yeah, no kidding. Stayed in a place with great, huge roaches that I'd never experienced before. We walked for about 5 miles to get to the stadium in flip-flops. I got blisters on the bottoms of my feet, which are no fun at all. They're finally starting to heal.
I got Gator flip-flops out of it. It was great.
You did. They fit okay?
Yeah, they're great. They're nice. They're very nice. Fancy leather.
Yes, and all this to experience the Florida Gators lose by a yard at an extra point. But we'll talk about that throughout the show, Tim. We had an awesome time together. Hopefully in 2 years or so, you can come up here and treat me with the same gesture.
Well, and I got to give you your props, man. Like, you held your end of the bargain. We had a deal, and there was no question. You 100% did what you said you were going to do. We have some pictures we're going to post tonight with the release of this episode on the Facebook page and maybe even on Twitter. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely kept your end of the deal, and it was a great time.
I convinced a lot of people that I was a Gator fan.
You did.
I did.
You did.
Man, I held my own, and it's nice that we do this podcast. I get to hear about the Gators every week. So that did help me. It was nice. I loved the AR-15 chants coming from the stands, some boos when they just weren't doing that well. It was a fun experience, man. The swamp is crazy. I've never been to a game that huge before. Like, I've been to Ohio State games, but they're always against the, FCS schools, the weaker opponents at the beginning of the season. So this was a ranked game against the number 1 team. The swamp was packed. I mean, we were hip to hip with everybody. And
COVID didn't exist on Saturday. We talked about this after the game.
Man.
COVID did not exist for those 5 hours.
Nope. Yeah. And it was exciting. It was fun. I lost my voice because we were screaming so much. So it's still a little raspy if you can't hear it. So it was just a blast, man. We had a lot of fun. Can't wait to share those pictures with you guys just to see the fun we had. Very exciting.
And I just gotta say one thing about the experience. Obviously I was getting texts throughout the game from people who went to Florida, friends of mine who went to Florida, and they were commenting. They weren't there, but they were watching the game and talking about it, and they could tell from their houses how loud it was, which is pretty cool from the TV.
Yeah.
And then the the beat writer for Alabama actually tweeted out. I don't know if you saw this. This is the Alabama beat writer. He said, take a bow, Florida crowd. That's the loudest football game I've ever attended. I've been to LSU and Auburn when those places were rocking. Nothing comes close to the noise I heard today.
Yeah, man. I lost my voice for a reason. We were going nuts, jumping up and down.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The reason I bought these, because I think it was the only team on your schedule that I could really feel like I could root against.
Yeah.
I don't really care about any of the other ones. I just want Alabama to lose every game all the time.
Understood.
So it was easy to root for Florida in that game. But, man, it came down to a yard, Tim.
I know.
It was more than a yard. Talk us through the Florida game, what you saw, what you liked, and what ultimately cost your team the game.
Well, it was a little bit of a roller coaster, especially early on. First quarter, it was 21-3, and I specifically said, "Uh-oh," because it was one of those. Yeah,
I sat down. I was like, "This is going to be a long day." 21-3, first 3 possessions, Alabama just marches it down the field.
They did, and then at that point on, they didn't get another first down until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That's how it was like Florida just wasn't awake to start the game. And all of a sudden they woke up.
They locked in. Yeah.
So at the end of the first quarter, it was 21-3. And then Florida only allowed 10 more points the rest of the game. And they just really stepped up. You even noticed how Cox stepped up for Florida and he played great. He was on fire.
My goodness. Yeah.
Even Dan Mullen says the best game of his career.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw he was in on everything. He was disrupting everything. He was a machine. And I mean, Florida out-physicaled Bama from second quarter on. They were the more physical team. They were the more determined team. And this, I don't know, does this expose Bama or does this prop up Florida?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think that it wasn't Alabama's best game they ever played. Probably that's probably what they're looking at from their perspective is this isn't the best game of our season. We're going to get better. We're going to continue to improve. But that's easy to say. But I think Florida really had a good game plan, and I think they played well overall. Like I said, they kind of had to wake up a little bit once they woke up. They pretty much dominated Alabama in the rest of the game, and like you mentioned, like it came down to the very end of the game, and you brought this up, and it was a really good point. In the second quarter, Florida missed that extra point on their touchdown, and that's what it came down to at the end of the game. Instead of going for 2, they tie the game on the extra point, and we go into overtime.
Yep. And I like Florida's chances in overtime, man.
Yeah, Florida had all the momentum.
Florida's chances. Yeah.
Yeah, they had everything was going for them. The crowd, the energy, the confidence, it was all going Florida's way. Richardson didn't play at all in this game, and there's a lot of theories for why that is. They're saying some people are saying his hamstring wasn't 100%. They didn't want to risk further injury. They want to rest him. I don't know about that. We
saw him in pregame. He wasn't favoring anything when he was walking. Like
he was doing backflips. He was doing backflips in pregame.
Yeah.
So and like we saw him pregame. He was throwing the ball. And I just want to mention again, like we noticed how big this dude is in person. Crazy big for a quarterback.
Yeah, he looked like the more dominant player standing next to, oh my gosh, his
Emory Jones.
Emory Jones, he seemed like the more dominant, more like commanding too. Like he just had that presence about him. So he's gonna be good, man. He's gonna be a good leader for your team. I think he's gonna be quality. He might have to wait till his junior year to do it if he stays in Florida.
We'll see. The drunk guy beside me told me that he had heard that he was a UF grad, and he had heard that they were saving him because they didn't want to they didn't want to show Alabama, they tipped their hand against Alabama now. Because this game didn't matter. Even if we lost to Alabama, we could still play them again in the championship. So we were saving Richardson. I was like, "Hey, drunk guy, go sit down." Like that.
Yeah, they're not saving. If you're going to save him, you save him for Bama. You don't know if you're going to get a second chance.
Right.
Like, give me a break.
It was an interesting theory. I don't buy it, but it was what I said, the drunk guy next to me was saying. At least we said I said by a Gator fan. That was cool. You were so lucky.
I had to sit next to grumpy Bama fans from third quarter on, who said the only 2 good teams in college football right now are Alabama and Georgia. As the game
garbage
as they went up 21-3.
Yeah, they didn't talk much after that though, right?
No, they were pretty quiet. Everyone around us, because I was surrounded by Alabama fans. They travel well, man. Buckeyes travel well typically, but Bama fans, there were a ton of them there.
Yeah, they're probably about 5,000, I would guess, Bama fans out of the 108,000 that were there.
You think only 5?
I think probably 5. There weren't there. I mean, if you look at the stadium, all the Bama fans were right around where we were. If you look at the rest of the stadium, it was all Gators. So maybe 10, but
Okay.
no more than that. It was, I mean, decent number though for on the road like that.
Yeah, and they were really nice. I mean, they won, but we sat next. Well, some of them were really nice. Some of them were really annoying. The ones we met after the game were really nice. I guess I'll put it.
Yeah. The ones who were complimenting us on the experience. And, you know, so I'm not big on moral victories, but I have to say I've never been more okay with leaving with the Gators losing than I was in this game. I think just because no one expected Florida to be close in this game. Yeah. All I've heard all year is how Alabama is such a dominant team and nobody has been competitive against them in the last year and a half, really, with the exception of Florida in the conference championship last year. And this year they like Florida lost everything on offense. They've got nothing. They have no chance. And, you know, credit to Florida, their fans, the venue, everything. Like they really stepped it up. And the high school players who you and I saw a lot of them as we were trying to sneak onto the field.
Yeah, they were all coming out from their official visits. And we're just like two goobers standing outside the door.
We saw a bunch of them out there though, and their families. And, you know, I saw a lot of really positive reactions from those guys of the experience and the venue and like what it would mean to be able to be part of that someday. So I think that was a small victory.
I think you're reading into it.
I'm saying I saw tweets, I saw posts from these players and what they said.
Okay.
These high school recruits who were like, yeah, this was my experience. Like this is a legit program. You know, like I want to be part of this. So there were a couple of guys who they were anticipating will commit to Florida after being at this game. Now, I'm not saying that's the number one reason why they're going to commit, but that's what I'm reading. So, yeah. So overall, really good game, really, really good time. We have some work to do still, obviously, but overall, I'd say even Emory Jones, who I'm on the fence about, obviously, he played pretty well. Like he didn't throw for a single touchdown, which is interesting considering the score.
Yeah.
But
he didn't throw the ball over 20 yards well. He would hit those short middle ones that would go for 11, 12 yards, 9, 10, 11, 12. But everything that was long ball, he missed.
Yeah.
And so, and then that last play of the game is almost like he didn't trust it. Like he didn't want to embarrass himself. You know, that's kind of the feel I got, like, because he couldn't throw it that deep.
Yeah.
And so he just ran it for like 4 yards.
Yeah, which is really frustrating. That in the 2-point conversion, it was like he wasn't confident in what he was trying to do, and that was one of the ugliest plays I've ever seen in a game. Yeah. So there's some things we got to work on. You know, again, he's a new player to be a starter. He's a new starter. Yeah. And so we'll hopefully learn from this. We'll continue to grow. We have Tennessee coming up this next week, who, you know, of course, classic Tennessee. They have nothing to trash talk about. They're going to find a way to trash talk. And what I'm hearing is Josh Heupel, who went from UCF to Tennessee this year, first year at Tennessee, followed his athletic director over there. Keep in mind, this is a team that lost to Pitt 2 weeks ago, right?
Right.
This past weekend, they beat Tennessee Tech. They blew out Tennessee Tech. And Josh Heupel says, "You're next, Florida." Let Josh Heupel sit down.
That's funny.
You got to be kidding me. So you know, that's a joke to me. And we'll talk about the spread of this game in a few minutes. We'll give you a chance to guess what you think the spread is going to be of Tennessee coming into Florida. You saw the environment this weekend. Yeah. You can imagine what it's going to be with. I think this used to be a rivalry. It's obviously considered less than Ohio State, Michigan. Yeah. Where they used to be competitive, but they haven't been competitive in 15 years.
Yeah. I think everyone knows Ohio State, Michigan. If you were to ask 15 random college fans, was Tennessee and Florida ever a rivalry? I bet 7 of the 15 would know. Anyway,
I mean, they used to be. They haven't been relevant in quite a long time. But at one point in time, Tennessee and Florida were the two top teams in the SEC. Yeah, but that was in the 90s.
Yeah. All right. Next up on the weekend rewind, I'm sure we'll talk about our experience a little bit more. But let's jump to the Ohio State game, the one that was frustrating. The whole game that we were at Florida, I wanted to go radio silence and just be able to watch the game when I got home, but that didn't happen because they had the score up on the board and. I just kept looking over there, and Ohio State went down 3-0. Then they tied it, and then they went back down. Like, it was just, I just remember thinking the whole time, like, what is going on? And then come to find out after you watch the game and hear people talk about the game, Matt Barnes was calling the defense. It's our defensive back coach. And they moved Coach Coombs up to the press box.
Okay.
But he's up in the press box, but he's not calling plays. What does that say to you, Tim? Because most of the time, coordinators are up in the press box. They're the ones calling the plays because they can see the whole field, right?
Yeah.
So what's that say to you if he's up in the press box and not calling plays?
Kind of tells me they're kind of pulling the plug on him, right? Like they don't trust him to do his job, and so they're kind of getting him away so he's not a distraction from what's going on the field.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely could be. I was seeing it more as Coombs is ticked, and he doesn't want to be down there with them. That when Ryan Day took the responsibilities from Coombs, he was like, it didn't go well. And Ryan Day even said in a press conference, I can't worry about feelings right now. We have to play better football.
Yeah.
And he said, we've had these patterns on defense. He said, it's not just something that happened against Oregon. This has been a pattern since Alabama struggled against Minnesota. And now he said, it's become a pattern. And so I can't worry about feelings right now because we need to win, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it went well with Coombs when he took the play calling away from him.
And what do you think this means coming off this game? What are they going to try going into next week?
I think they're still figuring out. I think there are a lot of teams that are still trying to figure it out. Not having last year, a lot of these freshmen, I think it really hurt them, not having like real practices and things like that, because there are a lot of teams that struggled. Oklahoma, Clemson, the big Ohio State, the big dogs are struggling right now, trying to just keep it close. So it could make for a really fun year with parity, or for Ohio State fans, it could make for a real bummer year. But it's yet to be seen. Like I said, we're still trying to figure this team out, and I think the coaches are too. They're trying to make the changes where it's necessary.
Yeah. Well, and there were some highlights from this game, though, right? Some bright spots for you.
Yeah, Travion Henderson ran for almost 300 yards, and I think almost all of those yards came after contact. So he's breaking tackles, doing all the right things, and it seems like he is the solidified starter. So when I first saw the score when we were in Florida, I said, man, they're just trying to establish the run. They're doing everything they can because Ryan Day in his press conferences again said that he wanted more balance. And I think to accomplish balance, he wanted to run the ball. And the problem is when you need third down conversions, when you need your quarterback to make the passes, he couldn't. There's a lot of speculation that CJ Stroud is hurt. Like there's something going on. He did the motion where he rolls his shoulder, and puts his hand on it. He did that a lot throughout the game. And there's speculation that he's hurt, but he doesn't want to be Kyle Trask and say, hey, I'm injured and I need to sit down. Ryan Day said that it's fine, that he's going to get hit. This isn't practice where you're going to be wearing a black jersey. This is where you're going to get hit, and you got to get used to it. He hasn't been hit. I think this is his junior year of high school.
Yeah.
You got to fight through it, basically.
I did see some comments from Ryan Day today saying that they're expecting Cal McCord and Jack Miller to get some reps in against Akron because Stroud does have a shoulder injury.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But I think last game he was throwing them high. He threw picks. He threw a pick because he missed high. Better throw low than high, but he's letting it soar. So I think maybe this last game, he had issues that he wasn't talking about. Okay. And then finally after this, he saw it. So yeah, we're playing Akron. We should, no matter how bad our defense is, we should be able to go man to man with Akron and do just fine. So we'll see. I think Kyle McCord is the real deal, and he might get Trasked over the weekend. But every quarterback, I could go out there and look halfway decent against Akron with the wide receivers we have. I think, whichever that point being, whichever quarterback's in the game, they're going to look really good.
Yeah. I'd be a little cautious though, because you kind of said the same thing about Tulsa coming into this past weekend. And I'm not saying it's going to happen again. I'm just saying the confidence is good, but also keep in mind.
I know, but I think Akron's a little different than Tulsa.
Akron's gotten blown out by Auburn and Temple so far this year.
Okay.
And they beat Bryant, which I don't even know what that is.
It should be an easy win, but don't count chickens, right?
Right.
So Matt Barnes calling the defense, but it wasn't the defense's fault. And, they gave up 428 yards of passing. So they're giving up a lot of passing yards against Tulsa. They stopped the run. They contained the run much better this week, but the defensive backs still aren't getting it right. And Ohio State, it's time to understand that you got to get pressure on the quarterback. You don't have either Bosa, you don't have Chase Young, you don't have that guy who teams have to plan around. You don't have that guy who can get to the quarterback. So you're going to have to put together blitz packages, run more zone, and that's the tips from Aaron Shipe.
Yeah, makes sense. So how are you feeling about this game? You feel like
not
they're going to win, but like, are they going to get back on track this week?
It's going to seem like they're back on track. It's going to be fool's gold because I think, like I said, I don't think Akron's that good. They're going to get blown out. Akron's going to get blown out, and they're going to look good. But like I said, it's a weird time for a night game. We don't play Oregon at night. No. We play Akron.
It is true.
Give me a break.
Well, the interesting thing is that Ohio State, after they get through Akron, they have an interesting schedule the next few weeks. They play Rutgers on the road, Maryland at home, and Indiana on the road.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting path before they play Penn State.
Yeah. We have a lot to figure out before we have Penn State. And Big Ten play, yeah, man, it starts next week. It's time to strap it on. And these games start really counting now. Without these, you don't get to, if you don't win out in the Big Ten this year, you don't get to the conference championship game. The conference is looking really, really good early.
Hi, this is Maria Gincola with Mindful MMJ Ohio. Did you know that medical marijuana has been legal in Ohio since 2016? If you have one of 25 qualifying medical conditions, you can obtain your medical marijuana card today. The most common conditions are chronic pain, including migraines and back or joint pain, PTSD, fibromyalgia, spinal cord disease or injury, and cancer. If you or someone you know is interested in learning more or to find out if you qualify, visit mindfulmmjohio.com and fill out the short pre-qualification form. The process of finding a physician, filling out paperwork, obtaining medical records, and scheduling an appointment seems like it would be a daunting process for most. But, lucky for you, Mindful MMJ Ohio will help you every step of the way to make the process quick and easy. In most cases, we can approve a qualified patient within 24 hours. And the visit is virtual, so you don't even have to leave home. So what are you waiting for? Visit mindfulmmjohio.com today. That's mindfulmmjohio.com. Let us help you be more mindful of your health and find a natural way to find relief from your symptoms.
All right. Overreactions, Tim. Do you have any from this previous week?
My number one overreaction is UCLA finally came back to earth. So that's good to see. That's good to see UCLA getting back to what we expect UCLA to be by getting upset by Fresno State at home.
Explain it. What do you mean?
Well, just the hype they had, the UCLA had coming in, beating LSU at home on week 2.
Right.
They beat Hawaii and they beat LSU, and then they had a week off to prepare for this freak Fresno State program, and they lose at home.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Their season is over. That's my overreaction. Their season is over.
All right, my overreaction: BYU should be in the top 10. The way they looked against Arizona State, the way they've looked throughout the season, put BYU in the top 10, win their conference, and be in the conversation, but not a serious contender for a college football playoff spot.
All right. My overreaction number 2 for me is Cincinnati may get in the playoff this year. The first non-Power 5 team to get into the playoff.
Yeah. Took down Indiana. First half Indiana, we were watching a little bit. First half Indiana looked like the better team.
They did.
But Cincinnati looked like the more determined team.
Yeah, they pulled away, especially in the second half. They really took over and just really looked like, especially going to the fourth quarter, they shut down Indiana at that point on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an experienced Indiana team. And Cincinnati showed them that they are legit. They're for real. And depending on what happens with the rest of college football, they have a chance to get in this year.
Overreaction number 2, Iowa, second best team in the country, People
Whoa.
can't score on them, and they have an offense that can put points on the board. Iowa, Alabama, then Iowa, and I would put the spread at 6.5 for Alabama in that game.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Iowa's that good.
All right. Well, my final overreaction is Clemson's in major trouble this year. They're not making the playoff.
Yeah,
They might not win the ACC this year.
who's better than them in the ACC?
Right now,
Yeah.
a few teams potentially.
Okay.
Just based on the way they played this year, they haven't shown anything. I almost would say the way Wake Forest beat up on Florida State. I don't know. Virginia Tech lost, but they could be potentially good. UNC might be a little overrated. We'll see. They have a good quarterback. Clemson may still be able to pull it off, but I just don't know. And who knows? Maybe they'll be the conference left out this year.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. If Clemson gets another loss, they absolutely could be the conference that gets left out.
Yep.
We could have 2 Big Ten teams in there for sure.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. There's a long season ahead of us.
When Florida beats Alabama in the conference championship, they're both get in.
They'll both, you think so?
I don't know. We'll see.
There's a good chance of that happening. I was thinking Ohio State beat Iowa because if Ohio State loses to Iowa, they're out. One more loss, Ohio State's out. So if Iowa wins out, loses to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game,
it's possible.
I could see both of them.
It's very
Because
possible.
to get there, Ohio State has to go through Indiana, which we're still considering a decent team. I wouldn't put them, up at the Penn State level, but they're in the Indiana. I mean, Purdue just lost to Notre Dame. They're bad. I don't know.
Only because they didn't get their drum.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Who's better right now? Michigan State or Indiana?
Michigan State. Who's better right now? Michigan State, Michigan.
Michigan State.
Okay. Rank the top 5 teams in the Big Ten, just right off the top of your head. We didn't pregame this.
Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa, and by default, probably Maryland.
Maryland. Oh, I like that. So I would go Iowa. This is in order, top 5 in order. Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, Michigan. Yeah, that's my top 5.
See, I put Maryland over Michigan because
Michigan's
Iowa
3-0 and they're smoking everybody they're playing.
Maryland also is undefeated, but they beat West Virginia. Michigan beat Washington, who hasn't proven they can do anything.
Right.
That's the only team. That's the only actual team they've beaten.
Washington won.
Washington lost the week before.
I know, but they
Montana.
won. Yeah, but they won this week.
Okay. Was this supposed to mean something?
No. All right. Let's get to it. Picks against the spread. Mr. Jones, what do you have for us?
All right. So catching up on last week, you were up 2 going into last week, and we had the Alabama-Florida game. I bet against myself and put Bama to cover that 15.5, and they obviously did not. So you got a point there. We both picked Ohio State to beat Tulsa by 26.5, so we both got nothing there. You took Auburn. I took Penn State -6. Penn State won by 8, so we tied it up for the week. And then we both picked BYU to beat Arizona State. Arizona State was getting 3.5 on the road, and we weren't taking that, and we both were correct. So you still remain 2 points ahead of me as of week 3.
Oh, yeah.
So now, and this is the thing, is like you haven't even seen these numbers. So
I know.
Do you want to pick first? I already have my picks.
Okay,
written down.
read all of them. And
Okay.
towards the end of your thing, I won't be paying attention. I'll be making my picks. So maybe do a little spiel after.
Okay, so you want me to like buy you some time,
Buy me some time. Yeah.
read the 4 spreads, and then give you some time to think.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so the first game we have Tennessee going to number 11 Florida. Keep in mind, Josh Heupel made a lot of stupid comments about how Florida better watch out. Florida is -20 at home against Tennessee. All right.
Okay.
Game number 2, Akron going to number 10, Ohio State. Ohio State is minus 49 in this game. Game number 3, we have number 12, Notre Dame traveling to number 18, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is minus 6.5 in this game. And game number 4, we have Texas A&M, number 7 ranked team in the country, traveling to number 16, Arkansas. Tennessee on the road is favored by 5.5. So those are 4 games that we have. Some really big contests this week. Pretty interesting. We have to see, is Notre Dame for real? Is Florida for real? Are they going to be able to hold off Tennessee at home? Is Ohio State going to bounce back against Akron? Is Florida State going to ever win a game this season? They're not on this list, but we still have to bring them up because they suck. Just let me know whenever you're ready.
All right, let's talking. All right, let's do it.
All right, I'll read it again to you. We have.
I got it. You don't have to. I wrote it all down.
All right, Tennessee going number 11, Florida minus 20. Who you got?
Tennessee.
Whoa, I am taking Florida all the way.
Okay.
All right, we've got Akron going to number 10, Ohio State. Ohio State's minus 49.
Akron.
I am taking Akron as well. I can't bet on Ohio State again.
Yeah.
Number 12, Notre Dame traveling to number 18, Wisconsin. Wisconsin minus 6.5.
This one was a tough one for me.
Okay.
I'm going Wisconsin, though.
I'm also going Wisconsin. I don't trust Notre Dame. I don't believe in them. It's the best team they'll play out so far this year.
Yeah.
And I expect Wisconsin to pull off the win at home.
By a touchdown?
By a touchdown.
Yeah.
All right. And then number 7, Texas A&M going to number 16, Arkansas.
This was the toughest one for me.
This is a tough game to pick.
Neither of these teams are proven yet.
Yes. So on the road, getting 5.5 points, are you going to take Texas A&M in that situation?
Taking Arkansas.
I am taking Texas A&M. So we have 2 separations this week. We have the Tennessee-Florida game. We have the Texas A&M Arkansas game.
I'm the least confident about my picks this week because I don't know enough about Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think 23 touchdowns is a lot, but then again, I don't know enough about Tennessee because I'm a slacker and what could cost me. And then Texas A&M and Arkansas, like I said, 2 unproven teams. We don't know what we have with either of these teams. Arkansas did well. What did they play? Notre Dame
Yeah, Arkansas, they had that big win last week, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Arkansas is improved,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say they're good at this point.
Right. Same with Tennessee. Like they have shown flashes, but they've really shown ugly colors as well.
Yeah. I mean, Arkansas's highlight of the season is being Texas at home. That was their big game of the season so far. And so last week they just played Georgia Southern. So I'm not overly impressed with that win, obviously, but this is a big test for them.
Yeah.
At home, I think makes a big difference.
And Arkansas is getting the 5.5, right? Texas A&M's laying them. Okay.
Yeah, on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Give Arkansas 5.5 at home.
Yeah, this is definitely the toughest game of the 4 for me to pick.
Yeah, I might be this might be the toughest game of the season to pick. It's
real tough.
Yeah. This is not one that I'd bet on. I wouldn't put any money on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, this is good. This will be fun. Like we'll see how I can bounce back and tie it up this weekend and be good from there.
See how the weekend plays out.
Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Tim and Shipe Show. Thank you so much for joining us. He's Tim Jones. I'm Aaron Shipe. We'll catch you next time.
And go Gators.